balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, it's officially October, and you know what that means. That means my backgrounds go to scary backgrounds, scary Halloween backgrounds. Oh, yes, I cannot forget. All right, folks. Well, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. I got so much stuff going on here. It's been an amazing day last night and today, but let's go ahead and get things started. All right, let's kick it off with our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would please stand, remove your hats, and if you have them, and put your hand over your heart, and let's go ahead and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, that wonderful flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Of course, that wasn't actually him. I wish it was, but that, of course, is a AI submitted by our very own 3 Chevy over on Rumble. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. And we had a fantastic show last night. We watched the debates together after the show. And I got to tell you, that debate was by far, in recent times, the most presidential debate that I have ever seen since, I don't know. I can't even think back about it. But anyway, at least since Trump has gotten into office or gotten into the fray in 2016. So there we go. All right. Let's go ahead with tonight being, of course,
down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right. It is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And for tonight's Whiskey Wednesday, I am drinking out of my Henry McKenna, 10 years aged, Kentucky bourbon, single barrel. Yep. And this one's actually 11 years. It didn't hit the 10, it went over the 10-year mark. And I am drinking it out of the True Grit Roots Network glass tonight with my stones. There you go. Yes, 3 Chevy, you need to have stones in order to drink with me. So there we go. That's some good stuff right there. Let me tell you. All right. Let me tell you about True Grit Roots Network. Now, tgrn.net is our home on the internet. That is where you can go to find the 24/7, 365 TGRN Blues channel playing right now. You can listen through your browser directly, or if you'd like, there is a link there that you can download our app. Whether you're on an iPhone or an Android, it doesn't really matter. Either one works. Or if you don't want to download our app, by the way, what you can do is if you already have the Live 365, Odyssey, AUDACY, or the iHeartRadio app, any one of the 3, you can search us up and you're in their catalog of digital radio stations. You can find us under TGRN Blues, True Grit Roots Network. We have fantastic on-air personalities that bring the blues to you in a way that nobody else does. And one of those personalities is my partner in this endeavor, Jonathan Oogie Richards. And Jonathan hosts with his daughter, Amber Burr-Hill, the show called Mighty Mouth Blues. Now, Mighty Mouth Blues the original airs at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Tuesday. But there is an encore presentation for you on Saturday, also from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., and both of those are in Central Time. Mighty Mouth Blues brings the hottest mix of new blues and old school hits, along with interviews with artists and blues news makers shaping today's blues from all parts of the world. Go and check it out exclusively on TGRN. That is the True Grit Roots Network. And once again, we can be found at tgrn.net. That's tgrn.net. And we are based out of Austin, Texas. And of course, we thank you for your participation and sponsorship. By sponsorship, I mean listening to us. Anyway, all right, I've got a jam-packed show for you tonight. We are going to be going through several clips that came from the debate last night, but I got to tell you right now, I was incredibly impressed. I'm talking like over the hill impressed with J.D. Vance's performance. And let me explain to you a little bit why. You got to understand, I don't know that much about J.D. Vance because, of course, I am over on the West Coast. I'm not a Midwesterner or an East Coaster where J.D. Vance would be a little bit more, shall we say, have a little bit more exposure. But J.D. Vance came into the scene, obviously, as a senator, and then, of course, he was plucked from Ohio as now the VP nominee for the Republican Party. And understandably, you know, I took a look into a little bit about him. I was a little apprehensive for a bit because normally when you grab somebody and just pluck them out of total obscurity and put them into politics, it seems as though they may not be all that great. Realistically, I mean, take a look at somebody like Tim Walz. Tim Walz was plucked out of obscurity and was dumped onto the national stage and basically has been falling down a lot since he's been put in the spotlight. J.D. Vance, though, seems to have a lot more political savvy. J.D. Vance is a very articulate speaker, and although I was impressed at the RNC for his acceptance speech, there was still that apprehension because of the fact that whenever you have a speech like that, it's usually written by somebody, and so being able to articulate and enunciate and be able to follow along with the teleprompter doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do well on high pressure stages, such as debates or interviews. Now, J.D. Vance, admittedly, has been going around doing all kinds of interviews. He's like even far exceeded the two candidates themselves. I mean, Donald Trump, at one point, you'll remember a few episodes ago, not that long ago, where I compared the number of times that the two primary candidates, as well as the VP picks, have done interviews, and J.D. Vance was like almost at 60. Okay. And so in comparison to something like Trump being close to 20 and Harris having like 2 and Walz having 2. Okay. I'm being blasted by my whiskey warriors over here on Rumble. They're telling me he's a Marine. You should know he's a Marine. But anyway, he purported himself extremely well. Now, that being said, it wasn't without complete, it wasn't like total complete domination. There were a couple of times when he said things that I felt, I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly all that thrilled about the idea, because it seemed like both of the two candidates were more for a bigger government. And as you know, you listen to the show, you talk to me. I'm a big proponent of a strict constitutional interpretation of our founding document, and therefore that means a smaller, limited government. J.D. Vance didn't necessarily overtly portray that on the stage last night. Now, that being said, maybe he might be a little more inclined to do a few other things, but there's some stuff that he has talked about in the past that has indicated that he is more of a big government person than a small, limited government person. But let's be honest, the VPs, I mean, even as we all know with the current administration, you have Biden at the top of the ticket, and he was sleeping. He's been sleeping ever since Kamala Harris has been plucked out of, again, literal obscurity, turned into the VP, and now once again been plucked to go be the presidential candidate for the Democrats. And she is a complete, utter moron and a train wreck. Okay? Now, that being said, I got to tell you, I'm looking forward into 2028. Now, I'm going to be completely open with you. I was talking about this with Steven Stiles. He and I were chatting. We've been chatting quite a bit here recently because obviously as the tempo of the election season kicks up, he and I get into a little bit more conversations about what's going on. But here's the deal. One of the things that we've been talking about is, okay, 2024 is Trump's year. Trump gets in, Trump does his thing for 4 years. Then what? And the question that gets asked often is, who's going to be the candidate for 2028? I'm going to tell you right now, after last night's debate, after what I've seen, while I have some reservations about his ideas of bigger government or big government, I got to tell you, if 2028 were to be held today and it was J.D. Vance on the stage for being the next Republican candidate for president, I'd be all in. J.D. Vance would be my guy. Now, all of that, of course, understandably, Ron DeSantis was in that slot. I really believe that if Ron DeSantis could have kept his damn mouth shut for 2024, just finished out his governorship in Florida, and then taken the 2 years in between the ending of his governorship to 2028, he would have been the shoo-in. Now I'm not so sure. I think that if he were to get on stage in front based on his public debates that he was in running for president, I honestly think J.D. Vance would essentially beat him. Only in the standpoint of the bigger government kind of idea. Ron DeSantis seems to have a better handle on things like government expenditures, money, the financial end of things. Obviously, he's been an executive before, so he has that experience. So there is a little bit of an edge on both of them. And I personally think DeSantis should have just stayed out of it until 2028. But that being the case, J.D. Vance has got in my opinion, he has got even if Trump loses this term, and even if they lose, I can almost guarantee you will see J.D. Vance. He's what, 39, almost 40? He's like half of Trump's age right now. He is going to be a political force moving forward. And his performance last night was very, very impressive. He did everything. He hit almost, I would say just about every single marker that he needed to hit during the debate. And he did it with style. He did it with flair. He did it with panache. He was able to take control of, okay, I'm being told he was just turned 40. But he was able to take control of the debate from the debate moderators at one point. And that, in fact, I'm going to show you I'm going to show you the video of that here coming up shortly. But Vance looked presidential. He looked like a leader on that stage. And I'm telling you, this was exciting. Okay? I'll be honest with you. I haven't been this excited since Ronald Reagan. And I wasn't even allowed to vote for Reagan because I wasn't old enough then. I was old enough to vote for Ross Perot in the Ross Perot, George H.W. Bush scenario. I was able to do that. But I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't been this excited, really. I mean, even though I agree Trump is a good guy, okay, I have my reservations. I've never been hiding any of those. And I think that he is going to be a great president once again, you know, once he gets in 2024. But realistically, he only has 4 years left. And so we kind of have to move. We also have to move forward. We also have to move forward with the idea that if 2024 goes the way that we do, we've got to get another candidate in order to pick up an additional 8 more years for a possibility of 12 total, and maybe even more, considering how bad the Democrats are screwing up right now. But enough of that. Here's how I can tell you that in terms of the debate, all right, who won? And this isn't even like a matter of, say, the Trump-Harris debate, or even better yet, the Trump-Biden debate, where it was a clear victory for Trump in the Trump-Biden debate. In the Trump-Harris debate, you know, it was 3-on-1. It was very antagonistic and so on and so forth. But the thing about it is that J.D. Vance went into a lion's den and was able to not only tame the lions, but walk out with a clear, decisive victory. You want to know how I can tell that? Well, it's pretty simple. When you have an outlet like Politico, when you have an outlet like Politico, known as Bullshitico, the left-leaning paper, when they say something like this, flash poll, Vance Walz debate to a draw. Well, I can tell you right now, that actually should read, flash poll, Vance schools Walz. And the reason being is because of the fact that Politico is never going to admit that a Republican actually won. They're just not going to do it. Okay? They're not going to do it. And so anyway, the point being here is that Vance is the clear winner in this entire situation. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's listen to the first one. This was a masterful takeover by Vance. And I mean masterful, because it wasn't toward Walz, it was toward moderators. Here we go.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you,
Margaret. The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
Okay, so let's. I'm gonna fact check this. I'm gonna fact check this because here it is, and I've already talked about it. Okay, I've already talked about it on this program, but here it is, really simple. They would not need temporary protected status if they were here under a legal means. If they had their green card, if they were not at risk of being deported, if they were not at risk of being sent back to their country to reapply for a visa, they wouldn't need temporary protected status. End of story. There is nothing further than that you need to understand or take that out of the entire scenario. Okay. And what Vance was attempting to try and get to was, of course, the idea that not all of them are that way, but any of them that are here by technicality here illegally. Okay? So I don't care what anybody says. If you're under temporary protected status, the reason why you're there is your deportation or you're being sent home has been suspended from it. Okay? So end of story. That's it. And he did that in a very masterful way. Now, I want to talk, or I want to show you a clip from the Dr. Phil show. Now, Dr. Phil has had a guest on both times after the debates. And what this individual, or individuals, in the case of the first one, he had two guests. But in this particular case, he had one guest. Now, what this guest is doing is he is analyzing the body language of the two candidates. And the body language, as he goes and analyzes these two candidates, there's something that becomes very, very clear. And that is that one candidate stands out as being prepared, being calm, being essentially comfortable in the environment, not nervous, not anxious, not deceptive in their answers. And that kind of scenario is what he analyzed. Now, the entire video, which I have the link in the show description, okay, for all of the video locations. It's in the show description, and you can go and grab it and watch the whole 12-minute thing. But I want to emphasize this one little part where he talks about, in particular, he's talking about Tim Walz and how Tim Walz is reacting to certain things. So here is essentially an analysis based on Tim Walz's body language for a couple of clips. I just want you to pay attention to this and watch how this may change your perception of what Tim Walz is reacting to during the rest of these clips. But let's listen.
Town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the...
Yeah, as that head goes sideways, that's panic, because he's not sure how he's going to defend this. He knows the question's coming, so he's got something ready, but it's not coming out the way he thought about it. So he's got inner dialogue going on. He's thinking about it. That's why I see that head turn, those eyes get really, really wide. I know what that looks like. That's what's happening there.
Yeah, and you see the grief muscle again here.
Yes. Oh, yeah, the upside down horseshoe right there. And the rest of this is panic. We see his eyes doing this. That's panic. And this, yeah, I know. And these up here, usually we look at that and we say, oh, that's disgust or whatever. But this is a panic mode. See how his head's coming forward and his chin is up like that. He's trying to get that out as fast as he can. And this is one of the only illustrations we see from him as he's talking. And this is the one that's come out further from his body than anything else because he's trying to make sure I want you to believe me. You got to believe me. That's what we're seeing, the panic here in that. Wide eyes, grief muscle, and everything's far out.
Let's finish the clip.
Okay. So let me explain a little bit, give you a little more context to that. So what this guy is talking about, there is a furrowing of the brow that happens when people are, it's called they referred to it as the grief muscle. And what this furrowing of the brow does is it basically makes your brow go into like an upside down U shape. Okay. And that in conjunction with the widening of the eyes and the look on his lower part of his face, okay, generally indicates things like he had discussed: panic, fear, he's about ready to, he's trying to figure out how to get out of it. He's, so on and so forth. And what he's illustrating with the hand gestures is when somebody is holding their arms close to their body, they're trying to like protect themselves. And if you look at Walls in particular and his body language, the entire night, he is holding his arms close to his sides. He's trying to protect himself. He's not really like reaching out. And when you compare the two body languages between Walls and Vance, when you look at those two, just take a look at what he is, the body language, the non-verbal cues that we are taking from both candidates as they speak. So while we're doing that, let's go back to the clips again. And let's go ahead and start with the next clip, which is on Walls and correcting his record. Now, keep in mind, this is like lie number 14,346 that Walls has been caught in, okay, about Walls being in China during Tiananmen Square. Take a listen to this.
We have a lot to get to ahead, gentlemen, on many topics. But right now, I want to talk about personal qualifications. The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. So one of the other things that body language, lie detecting kind of expert did say is that, and this was something that Dr. Phil mentioned, is that he didn't answer the question directly. He started off by telling a story. And he started off by trying to get you to look back into the past. And that is a common indicator that somebody is about to, or somebody is attempting or trying to avoid the question. So let's go ahead and continue with the clip here.
Town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on. And I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17.
Okay, right here. Right here. Oh my gosh. Okay. Remember what he was just talking about. Look at that. Look at that face. Look at that face. Okay. You see the furrowed brow, the U shape, the widening of the eyes, the look of concern. He is trying to figure out how in the F am I going to get out of this question and still attempting to smell like a rose. And Bam just asked, did Dr. Phil do this with the Harris debate? Yes, he did. He absolutely did. So here we are. So here he is looking right at us. He's like, he's freaked. he's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out of this? Okay, so let me go ahead and go back and let's continue with the clip.
Worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams.
Okay, so looking at his face right now, all right, you can see that he's now gotten back into a comfortable spot in his rhetoric, in his speech. He's like, okay, I know this. This is my life. This is what I've done. I'm doing well. Kind of this. I'm now starting to relate. So he's relaxed a little bit. He knows the subject matter. He doesn't need to freak out. He's okay. He's gotten comfortable. But also, take a look at his arms. And they're kind of hard to see down here behind the Chiron, but take a look at his arms. His arms are still tucked in, and they're still close to his body. They're still kind of tucked in a generally protective sort of nature. Okay, so anyway, let's go and we'll continue on with this clip.
We would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at.
Okay. So once again, here we are. Even though I caught him on the low side, let's see if I can actually back this up here a second. Let's see if I can slide this back. Oh, I can't. Okay. So anyway, here he is. Even though his eyes aren't open, you can see like he opened, he's got his eyes are wider. Even though he's got them closed, he's got his eyes wider. His brow is starting to furrow. You can see those lines on his face. They're starting to get a little more. He's starting to get worried here because he's trying to justify what's happening in this scenario. So let's continue with the clip.
They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect, and I'm a knucklehead.
Okay, right here, he's begging. He's begging for forgiveness at this point. He's begging right now. He is like asking, please believe me. Like anybody's going to. But that's where he is. He's like, please believe me on this. All right, let's continue.
At times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything. Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Okay. Did he in any part of that entire thing, did he at once answer the question? No. And he actually gets called on it. Hold on.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this is I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
Okay. I misspoke. Here he is. I misspoke. There's the look. Oh my gosh, I misspoke. Oh, please, please. Please believe me. I'm begging you. Yeah. Folks, he's a liar. He's a lying, stolen valor coward. That's all he is. He doesn't, for him to actually even be on that stage, I'm just telling you right now, I am shocked that he's even physically there. Oh my God. He's trying to say, oh, I misspoke. Well, you know what? He also misspoke about his being in Iraq. He misspoke about him being in about the fact that he was actually carried a weapon in war, because he didn't. He misspoke about the fact that he retired as a command sergeant major. He misspoke about the fact that his DUI was nothing serious, that he didn't actually have one, that he couldn't hear what was going on. He misspoke about the fact that he was giving meals directly to kids and so on and so forth, which is under investigation right now by the feds, by the way. He misspoke about all types of things. He misspoke about his IVF, which it wasn't. It was a different fertility treatment. But, wow. I mean... Oh gosh. Yeah. All right. Let's go back. Oops. Sorry. Let's go back. Let's finish this clip and move on.
So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed.
Okay. Hold up. Here's even worse. Did you see how wide his eyes got? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm having fun with this. This is classic. He got smeared with this on national television. I got caught. I lied, but I'm trying to get out of it. Oh my gosh.
In governance.
All right. So that isn't the end of it, though. That isn't the end of it, people. I'm going to point that out. I'm going to point it out a little bit more. A little bit later, they got into it about abortion. And obviously there was the whole, oh gosh, I can't remember. Amber Thurman, the ProPublica piece, which I covered on this program. I told you about all of this. I told you the reality that, yes, the woman did get an abortion. She did go to a hospital in North Carolina with regards to the piece. And I'll explain a little bit more after this, but let's go ahead and listen to Walls as he tries to attack on abortion.
And also answer the question about restrictions.
Yeah, well, the question got asked and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. No, he didn't. Or no, she didn't. She actually made it to the hospital. So here's the factual story, not the ProPublica one, but here's the factual story. Okay. All right. The factual story is this. Both women that they are talking about in the ProPublica piece, both women took the medical abortion pill. Both women had a medical abortion. The fetuses were dead. They had died. Unfortunately, their bodies, both women, their bodies did not expel the dead fetal material. Okay, I'm trying to be as cognizant of what I'm saying here as I can. One woman who was not Amber Thurman, the other woman, she decided to take all kinds of like pain meds and ended up taking some fentanyl and died from an overdose. Okay. Amber went and traveled to a hospital in North Carolina because she falsely believed that the Georgia law would have stopped her from getting any help. That's bullcrap, because the Georgia law, and here, I'll show you. I'm going to show you guys this. Now let me move this out of the way here. Give me just a second. So here's the Georgia law. Okay. Here's Georgia doctors that talk about the death of Amber Thurman. The GOP lawmaker and a doctor says that mothers in abortion-related emergency situations in Georgia will always be protected. These people seem to neglect the idea, and here is actually the quote. Now, so Thurman died in Georgia, so here it is, okay? Thurman died in Georgia after taking abortion pills and suffering complications. According to the ProPublica reporting, doctors at Piedmont Henry Hospital waited a prolonged period of time before performing the necessary dilation and curettage D&C procedure to remove the dead matter, which is not an abortion, folks. The D&C is not an abortion procedure, all right? Now, that was reportedly out of being in fear of facing legal backlash due to the state's abortion laws. But here's the thing. The representative in McCormick, here we go. The representative, Rich McCormick, who is in Georgia, and State Representative Mark Newton say the law had nothing to do with that, folks. It's the complications allegedly caused by the abortion pills and the fact that there could be a medical malpractice problem here because the doctors waited too long. She did not die due to the abortion. And McCormick actually even calls this out. He previously served as an emergency department head in a Navy deployment in Afghanistan and was talking with Fox News Digital. And he says, we never deny a woman an abortion because it's going to harm her in some way. She will always be protected. He continued and said, you have every right to an abortion, even with that heartbeat law. So the law in Georgia basically states that if you can detect a heartbeat, you essentially are not supposed to be allowed an abortion. But he's basically saying here that when they say there's no exceptions, there's not a single law in any freaking state, okay, that is, that has, there's never any law in a state where there's absolutely zero exceptions. There is no 100% ban anywhere in the United States. You cannot believe this. It doesn't exist. It's simply not the way it works. The mother's life is always protected. And with that said, it doesn't mean that it's easy to get an abortion just because you have a complication or because something goes wrong. So the point here is that once the baby's heart has stopped, okay, there's no restrictions on performing the procedure, the D&C procedure, to ensure the safety of the mother. This is all bullshit by these people, okay? It's complete and utter bullshit by these people. And so now, let me go ahead and get this back on the screen here. So now let's continue with this clip.
The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body?
Okay.
We have a lot to get to.
Stop. Sorry. I unfortunately skipped ahead. Or no, I skipped back. My bad. Hold on.
And also answer the question about restrictions.
Okay. So here's the thing. He's lying about that right. There is no right to an abortion. There's a right to life, but there's nothing in the federal government or even in any of the state constitution laws, with the exception of some of the ones that have actually enshrined abortion in their constitution, that basically states that you have a right to an abortion. You don't. Now, let me see if I can pick back up where it was.
Journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body.
Oh, by the way, they wanted to throw that out when COVID and the vaccine came out, too. Let's not forget that.
Is determined on geography. There's a very real chance, had Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today.
And that actually may be false. Because again, had nothing to do with the abortion. Now, nothing to do with the abortion at all. Let's continue.
That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen.
Okay. Yep. Wait. Oh boy. Here we go. Here's that facial expression again. Look at the widening of the eyes. There's the change in the lips on the side. There's the U. It's starting to, in the frame before this, it was a lot more tight. But there it is again. Keep an eye on this. Here we go.
The Vice President Harris talk about this subject and you hear me talk about it, you hear us talking exactly the same. Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree.
That's not true. Donald Trump has basically stated unequivocally, it belongs to the states. There's nothing that I need to do. He stated that in the last debate with Kamala. There's nothing I need to do. Okay, we'll continue.
Agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Okay. So, yeah. So, again, lies. All right. Now, let's move on to immigration. So here we go. We're going to hit into the immigration part of because they were asked about immigration. And so here's the clip, and let's take a look and analyze this.
Your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, before Vance answers, remember what I was telling you about the differences between the two candidates. Let's now take a look at how Vance handles this question.
First of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it right there, but I want you to take a look. You take a closer look at Vance's head. He's not, his brow isn't furrowed. His eyes are normally sized. Okay. If you look down further at his hands, look at his hand. And just a minute ago, just right before I paused the video, you can also see that his arms actually come away from his body. So he's not trying to protect himself here. He actually and truly believes what he is saying is to be the truth. All right, let's continue with this.
Let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportation.
Okay, really quick, look at Walls. Walls is worried. Look at him. He's looking down. His brow is furrowed. He's worried. How the hell am I going to respond to this? He's crazy. He's scared. He's totally scared. This is a fear
on those
factor.
folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what? I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Okay. He was correct on every single point that he just made. 100% correct. 100% correct. And all Walz was doing the entire time is he was looking down. He had his brow furrowed. He was obviously nervous. I mean, he wasn't quite at the point of like Richard Nixon sweating kind of nervousness, but you could see it in his whole thing. He was very uncomfortable being on the stage. There's absolutely no freaking way that he actually won this debate. Now, there is one part that I'm going to give Walz. I'm going to give Walz a credit for this. And unfortunately, this is the one thing that the Trump campaign, whether it's Vance or Trump, is going to have difficulty dealing with, because they cannot, under any circumstances, state 100% unequivocally that Trump lost, because they do not believe it. They do not believe it. But here, Walz pulls up the whole January 6th, and Vance hits back with something I think was actually pretty masterful. Here we go.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate, and I think there was a lot of commonality here. And I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator.
Me too, man.
There's one though that this one is troubling to me, and I say that because I think we need to tell the story. Donald Trump refused to acknowledge this, and the fact is that I don't think we can be the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he didn't.
Okay, really quick before we go any further. So did Hillary Clinton in 2016. And she refused to concede for quite some time. In fact, even now, she even still claims that it was stolen by the Russians using Facebook ads. But let's just ignore that.
140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day, some with the American flag. Several later died. And it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group.
Okay, so several later died. They died due to other issues, not because of what happened on January 6th, just to clear that up.
Gathered on the state capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, we're marching to the governor's residence and there may be casualties. The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police. That issue, and Mike Pence standing there as they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. Mike Pence made the right decision. So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then you try and do everything you can to help the other side win. That's what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponent.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Hold up. He's about ready to say something here. And just before I pause this, his brow furrowed, his eyes got wide. Uh-oh, we're about ready to get something that maybe he doesn't believe. Do you think? Here we go.
Already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People.
Okay, well, his words simply were peacefully and patriotically protest. They weren't go rush the Capitol and destroy things. He's not quite on that with this. Anyway.
Hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are.
Okay, never happened. Wasn't an insurrection. He didn't try to overturn it. He left at the constitutionally prescribed time with little fanfare. Nobody was there to say goodbye to him. He just left D.C. on Air Force One like he was supposed to. Sorry. Let's go on.
4 years later, in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Okay. The only reason why this is tearing our country apart, Mr. Walls, is because of the fact that you assholes keep bringing it up. This January 6th thing, pretty much everybody has kind of been like, okay, this is water under the bridge. For the most part. There are still some questions. There are some things out there about it. Okay. But, and you can, we can have debates about what happened. But the fact of the matter is I don't think anybody who sits here and tries to say that January 6th was this significant thing, okay, was this significant thing as much as what the left wants you to believe. Nothing happened. Things went forward. We're in the position that we are now because Biden and Harris took office. Now, one thing that I'm sorry I thought was part of that clip, but it wasn't. But J.D. Vance brought up the whole thing about the Biden-Harris administration censoring Americans and censoring people on both Facebook and Twitter, which is all true. Okay. So, yeah. I want to back up because I want to back up for a second because I saw something that came out from Buddy and I wanted to address it. So Buddy pointed out he wants a $1 million fine for anyone hiring an illegal alien. And I know a lot of my rumblers follow on that vein. Here's my idea. And I actually go a lot farther than you, Buddy. I basically say that if anybody hires an illegal alien, and by that I mean knowingly hires an illegal alien to do work in the United States and they are caught, they immediately forfeit all of the company. They forfeit everything. The company is put into foreclosure, receivership, whatever. Its assets are sold off and everything is turned over. Whatever whatever money is developed out of that, it's placed into the public coffers. That's it. That's all there is. Okay. You do that once or twice, and I guarantee you the incentive for people to come here to get work illegally, yeah, that'll go away. That's my idea. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. That is my idea. My idea is to punish the hell out of anybody. And it's not a fine. It's literally you close down the business, you sell off everything, and whatever proceeds come back, that just falls into the government. That's it. You broke the law. You broke the law by hiring illegals. You're done. That's all there is to it. That's just my opinion. But anyway, and I honestly, I kind of fall down on the harder side of things. Well, anyway, so there was one other gaffe, one other position that Walls took that, this one's not going away anytime soon. And I'm actually kind of surprised that nobody has picked up on it just yet. I got to tell you, this debate had a lot of what they're called snapshots and sound bites. Okay. For snapshots and sound bites, that are for the Republican Party, honestly. But this one in particular was, I caught it as it happened live last night, and I was going to comment on it, but I kind of let it go. Okay. And essentially The New York Post wouldn't let it go, wouldn't overlook it though, because here it is. The New York Post. Walz says that he's become friends with school shooters. In a debate gaffe, he actually said this. You think I'm lying? Here, listen to him. Oh, wait.
In your political career, did you change your position? Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is talking about cities and where it's at. The number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there for just a second. He hasn't said the word, said the sentence yet, but I just want to point that out. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Yes, suicides are bad. Suicide by gun make up roughly a 55 to 60%, I think, of all gun-related homicides in the country. And I'm only laughing. I'm not laughing at that as a statistic, but I'm laughing because of the fact that these gun grabbers, they totally ignore the fact that the vast majority of gun-related incidents are self-harming or suicide victims. This isn't gun violence as a whole falls for the most part into two categories. It's either suicide or self-inflicted or criminal behavior. There's nothing else there. There is no reason to add any more gun laws, okay, because of the fact that the vast majority of these gun incidences, which they try to purport, the vast majority are accidents or self-inflicted. The vast majority are that way. And the small minor majority, very minor, are the school shootings that he is about ready to talk about. So anyway, we'll continue with this.
Children getting guns and shooting themselves.
Well, there he goes. So he just said they're getting guns and shooting themselves. Now, they apparently that clip didn't have it, but he said, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. So wait a minute. He's become friends with school shooters? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, his performance, Walz's performance was just absolutely atrocious. JD Vance was on point. He was on set. He was good to go, and he did quite a good job. I'm very impressed with him, and I could see backing him in a future 2028. Now, there are still some fact checks that I want to hit, but I don't have any videos for them. One of them was solar panels were made in China. Vance said that. Walz, of course, immediately came back and said, no, we have a plant here in wherever it was. I think he called out like Ohio or Michigan or something like that. And that is, according to Aaron Walsh, who is a senior research fellow for international affairs at the Heritage Foundation's Asian Studies Center, the development of solar energy began in America, but then the Chinese developed it further, and now China actually controls the entire supply chain. I've talked about this on this program, where they hold everything. They hold the raw materials market, they hold the creation of the chips, they hold all of this stuff. And so, yeah, China is vastly superior to us in terms of the solar panel game. Okay. So Bonnie is asking me a question here. What did he say that makes you think that Vance is for big government? It came down to, there was a part where they were talking about childcare and how childcare in particular, he made a comment about how we need to be able to make childcare affordable and those kinds of things. It's just one of those things that, first of all, childcare shouldn't, I mean, I know it's my own senator, Senator Patty Murray, harps on this all the time. And I still would love to be able to, be able to tell you right here in the Constitution. I'd love for anybody to explain to me where in the Constitution things like healthcare, childcare, anything dealing with your own personal lives are required by the Constitution to be a federally mandated responsibility. And unfortunately, I mean, he and Walz sort of agreed a little bit on the childcare thing. And so, there were some comments about that. And then also too, Vance didn't actually come out with the whole idea of like, look, we've got to limit government spending. We've got to cut back on government spending. He didn't really delve into any of that part of it. Even when we were talking to, even when they were talking about some of these finer points or the smaller points where they were talking about, how are you going to pay for these things? He just didn't hit on what I think would be a conservative viewpoint of small, limited government. And he didn't hammer that home. Now, you could say that the conditions were such and the questions were such that he didn't get the opportunity. And I could sort of agree with that. However, I'm a little concerned about this idea that the federal government should really be in charge of or provide some sort of a child care scenario. I don't get it. I don't understand. That's not part of the government's job. It's not something that we need to do. And Vance has made some comments in the past where he has talked about the expansion of government programs for certain things. Now, again, keep in mind, they are, it's all one of those feel good kind of things. It makes people feel good that, hey, the federal government is going to help people. And I get that. But again, the strict constitutionalist in me goes, all right, if you want to help people, fine. Where in Article 1, Section 8 does this apply? And that's the question. So anyway, okay. All right. Let's continue on with some of this. So there was a comment about climate change, and this is another one, the whole climate change thing. But the climate change there, O'Donnell, who was one of the two CBS moderators, used the devastation wrought by Hurricane Helene in Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina to ask the two vice presidential candidates about climate change. And the thing about it is that climate change doesn't make the hurricanes larger. And in fact, the hurricanes themselves are actually less frequent now. Okay. Less frequent now than what they have been in the past. And the only reason why they seem to be larger and more devastating, and studies have shown this, it's because of the fact that, and don't think I didn't catch you there, Coco. I'm thinking about it here. Because of the fact that we have more people, we have more population than we have over the course of history. So it's not necessarily that hurricanes are getting bigger, more devastating, that they're more frequent. It's just that they hit more populated areas more often. And honestly, things are more expensive to repair and replace nowadays. And so that's why these numbers are going up. We're not getting them. And in fact, a climatologist, David Legates, told the Daily Signal podcast in June that if we have colder periods, we will get more hurricane activity. If we actually have warmer periods, the activity tends to drop off. For those of you that don't understand how a hurricane forms, it's the differential between a warm body of water and the colder air that is surrounding it that creates that vortex that brings in the hurricanes. Like I told you with Hurricane Helene, it was crossing over the body of water that was warmer than normal. And so that's why you end up with the whole idea of the fact that, you know, the hurricanes are getting bigger and stronger. They're not. They're just being tracked better. They're hitting more populated areas and that kind of thing. And so, again, climate change itself, human-affected climate change, in my viewpoint, is literally this. It's nothing. We can do nothing more than what we have already done if we cannot get China, India, and Russia on board with the exact same stuff that we are doing. There's nothing that the U.S. itself can do. Human-affected climate change itself, is a hoax. Okay? Anyway, so moving on from that, obviously we covered the Project 2025 registry of pregnancy. So Walz made a comment about Project 2025. Of course, he's trying to bring 2025 and Project 2025 and tie it again to Trump. This is the standard Democrat rhetoric bullshit that they've been doing all this time. Project 2025, by the way, doesn't have anything. In fact, legacy media outlets, including CBS News, fact-checked that claim as false. Project 2025's 900-page mandate for leadership does call for the CDC to collect certain information from states, namely information on the number and method of abortions, the reason for the abortion, how far along in the pregnancy each abortion was, and the pregnant woman's state of residence. But there's no evidence that Project 2025 actually ever called for a federal registry of pregnancy, which was the claim that Walz stated was part of the Trump plan. Okay? Yeah. So, so anyway, there's no evidence of it. And Trump also has repeatedly stated that he's not read it and has not endorsed it. His plan, his agenda, his desire is to follow Agenda 47. And you can go and take a look at Agenda 47. There are some things, I'm not going to lie, there are some things in Agenda 47 that line up with Project 2025, but that doesn't mean that he got them from 2025. Okay? So there it is. All right. Let's see. What else? So Walz made the comment and he was called out. I don't have the clip on it, but Walz mentioned that the measure that he signed in Minnesota does not allow abortion all the way up to the 9th month, which is literally bullshit. That is total bullshit. Okay. Trump called it out in the debate. Walz mentioned it and was saying that was wrong. It actually is correct. Okay. In January of 2023, the governor, meaning Governor Walz, signed into law a bill that included 0 limitations on when a woman may end the life of her unborn baby. And it's not just Minnesota, it's actually several others. Also, too, after that law was signed into law, there was reportedly 8 babies that were born alive from botched abortions, okay, and were left alone to basically die with no life-saving care added to them. All right. And Walz in 2023 actually removed a Minnesota requirement that required, and this is the truth, he removed a requirement that measures be taken to preserve the life and health of the baby after a failed abortion, replacing it with a nebulous requirement for the word care. Okay. So yes, it is true. And again, Walz is lying about that. Okay, we already covered the abortion ban or the abortion thing with with Amber Thurman. I've already talked about that. The other thing that he mentioned was he talks about Walz had repeated the Democrats' constant lie about the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, TCJA, that was saying that it was only benefiting the wealthy. The reality of it is that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed by Congress gave 82% of middle income earners a tax cut, averaging just over $1,000. And this is according to factcheck.org, which factcheck.org isn't a right-leaning organization here, people. The year following the TCJA, by the way, new job openings surged. About 83,000 Americans voluntarily left their jobs for better opportunities at the end of 2019, compared with the trend that was before the TCJA that came in. Yes, Bonnie, I have a pet of the week. So all of this is, of course, this is all lies. I mean, this literally, everything that he spewed on stage was pretty much lies. All right. Let's see. So again, they talked about gun violence. We already mentioned that in there. There was also a common conversation about the largest decrease in opioid deaths. There has been a decrease recently, but a lot of that has to deal with the fact that they're not, people aren't coming across the border like they used to, because they actually closed the border and started flying them in. Let's see what else. So one of the things that Walz talked about in terms of a response to Vance's Facebook censorship thing, Walz immediately jumped in and said, well, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a lie. You can. It is legal to yell fire in a crowded theater. And I've gone through this on the program. There is a Supreme Court cases that literally state that this is not a problem. Problem is what happens after you yell fire in the crowded theater. You're going to be liable for any kind of damage or any kind of injuries that occur after you do so, of course, provided that you're caught. But again, you have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater, which is that is no longer the standard by what constitutes free speech or not. Okay? That's complete and utter bullshit. And yet the left seems to want to use this on a more and more policies, especially people like Walz, who want to ban what he considers hate speech. I literally want someone to ask Walz, what do you consider hate speech? Seriously, if we're going to make rules about speech, let's define it. Let's put it out there. What is considered hate speech? And literally the only definition the left has is that you essentially have, well, it's speech that I don't like. That's what they do. That's what they say. And people just, I mean, these guys are going to continue going on and on and on about this bullshit. Well, the reality of it is, after this totally debacle of a debate, here in the Federalist, let me point this out. So here in the Federalist, there was an article talking about how Tim Walz isn't actually helping Kamala Harris. He's hurting her. Oh, take a look at that. Whoa, look at that. Look at that face. I don't know what the hell he's saying there, but holy crap. His brow is like totally furrowed. Oh my gosh. Anyway, this guy's wild. I don't know where they got that photo, but that was awesome. But anyway, he's actually failing to win over white men and hasn't secured any of the crucial swing states for Harris. You know, do you honestly think that maybe there's like some remorse, buyer's remorse in the Kamala Harris campaign? That they're like, you know what? God dang it, we really should have picked Josh Shapiro. because maybe he actually could have picked it up. That, that we could have actually done it. But yeah, he's been talking a huge game, and he wanted to debate J.D. Vance and fall flat on his face. And now, yeah. He's just freaking. This was written before the debate last night, so yeah. He's not doing them any favors. Not saying that Kamala herself sorry, excuse me, cholera. That's not saying that Kamala herself isn't hurting herself, but yeah. He is not doing any favors. Well, there was an article in Woke Spy, and I got to have time to like really hit all of the Pet of the Week stuff tonight. Got to. By the way, guys, I just want to say I've got 3 of them now. Thank you so much for submitting them, but keep sending them in so that I can get a massive queue of stuff going on. I do appreciate it. I love doing the little segments like Pet of the Week. I really do. And you guys are doing a great job. I know you're trying really hard to make it so that I have one every week. Right now I've got 3, but don't let that stop you. Send the stuff in. But anyway, let me go back to where I was with this. So Kamala Harris now has apparently admitted that she was sleep deprived when she chose running mate Tim Walz. Oh my gosh. She was on a podcast with basketball players Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. The podcast is called All the Smoke. And she revealed, apparently, that she had a lack of sleep during the chaotic first few weeks in July. And this is her quoting, okay, on the podcast. She said, "From the time that the president called me and I told me he wasn't running, I mean, it's just like everything was in speedy, speedy motion, and I was not sleeping well. And that one morning, I mean, I had, I don't know, a few hours sleep, and I like to sleep. I just got up, and it was like, so I just went out and got a pork roast and started marinating it. And my family was all going to be in town. They were so very happy about the whole situation. And I just got up and started, everybody's asleep, and I just got up and started cooking. So your lack of sleep contributed to, that was her quote, by the way, my impression, but her quote. But the thing about it is, oh my God, I mean, seriously, you're going to admit that? Oh my gosh. I mean, her quote unquote gut decision to pick Walz as a running mate. What happened on the cooking? I cannot believe this. What the hell? Oh, wow. But I'm wondering if they're I'm seriously wondering if they are like reconsidering this entire thing after last night. Oh, holy crap. All right. No red wave talk, folks. No red wave talk. All we got to do is win. Okay. So take 10 friends, act like we are 10 points behind, which, I mean, in some cases, it looks like, at least according to the slanted polls, that we are. So just, yeah, go. Let's go. Take 10 friends, take them to the election. I'm going to find as many people as I can that I know that will vote Republican. I'm going to try and, well, we have mail-in balloting, so I can't drag them off to the polls. But I will hammer it home the week prior to make sure. But anyway, yeah. So, wow. Okay, that analysis took a little too long. I've got a few other stuff here. Maybe I'll carry it over to tomorrow. But anyway, let's go ahead and get involved with one of the fan favorites, the pet of the week. All right, so tonight's pet of the week, and I got to get the story brought up here. So tonight's pet of the week comes in from our favorite dog whisperer, Amy Jean Viner over on Rumble. Amy writes, your choice on what you show. Well, Amy, I'm showing it all. Okay. I'm going to show everything. No, I'm not talking about like taking off my shirt or clothes or anything like that. Anyway, we have 2 videos here. I'm going to tell you about both of them first, and then I'll go ahead and play them. So here's what we have. In both of these videos, Ellie, one of her Teruvian, am I pronouncing it right? I hope. Teruvian Shepherds, I believe. And she is, let's just say this dog is fantastic. Amy does a really good job. I am so impressed with how Amy trains these animals. She obviously loves them, and they are just absolutely fantastic, great performers. But anyway, so here it is. Both of the videos, Ellie won first place and the titles. In the fast, which is the first video you'll see, in the fast, Ellie is running at a top level. The goal is to accumulate points, at least 60, and successfully do the bonus challenge, which is to demonstrate distance work. I'm assuming that means you giving commands farther and farther away from it. But anyway, with Ellie's speed, I am always behind her or very lateral, meaning that she's side by side. Okay. She likes me not to be close. We are usually successful in this game since distance is required. We have been working really hard to qualify in the standard runs. These are the runs with the climbing obstacles. Ellie has been having problems slowing down to get her contacts. So the dog apparently has to have at least one paw in the yellow on coming down. Now you'll notice that both ends of like the seesaw deals, they have yellow paint on them. So they have to have at least one paw in that paint before they jump off. All right. So she also really loves tunnels and will go off the course to do them. Things finally came together. This qualifier has her finally moving into the top class. So here is the fast. Oh, I better get over there before I go and trigger this. So here is the fast run. She's got it labeled as MXF title. So here is her fast run. There she goes up the ramp. She just touched the yellow. There she goes over a jump, running through a tube, over a jump, back to the tube. Jump over a jump. Over a tunnel. Oh, nope, over a jump. Now under a tunnel. Now she's going over across a seesaw. One paw in the yellow. Got it. There goes. She's back through the tunnel. Now she comes around and she jumps over the final markers. So there you go. Wow. I am impressed. Oh, Tervuren is how it's pronounced. Anyway. I always screw that up. But we've got one more video here, so don't go anywhere. So one more video. This one apparently is the standard open title. And so here we go. This one's a little bit closer, so you can see a little bit more of it.
One more 20-inch sheet, guys.
Oh, over a jump. Through the poles, which are, they do zigzags through them. And over a jump. Then through the tube. Then up and over the, whoop, she stopped. Now she comes over the top of the A-frame. Now over the jump. There she goes. She's up on the platform. She's got to sit there for a minute. She's sitting. There she goes. Now she's off over a jump, another jump. Across the seesaw. There, she hits that yellow spot. Perfect. Over a jump, through the tube. And now she's over the high, it's like a high walker. Oh, she had to slow down to make sure she got that paw in the yellow. Now through the tube, now over a jump, over another jump. There it is. There's the final run. Congratulations to Amy and Ella, of course, for those fantastic runs. Now, I think there's some still shots. Let me see if I can get the still shots up here. Yep, Okay. Here's some still shots. So there's her going over the jump. I got to get my command and control up here. So there she is going over the jump. Oh, wow. That is a fantastic action shot right there. There she is sitting on the platform, sitting still. Holy crap. You know, sit and look at the attentiveness of the dog. I mean, Ella's like locked on to Amy with those ears. Holy crap. If you guys, hey, if you're listening to the audio portion of the program, you got to head over to rumble.com, take a look at the video and look at this fantastic dog and her performance. Just absolutely stellar. Here she goes. She's jumping over another jump, action shot. There she is coming out of a tube. Look at that. That dog just looks like she is having the time of her life. Holy crap. She loves this. There she goes, jumping, and there's Amy in the background in the tie-dye. But there she's jumping over another jump. Fantastic, beautiful dog. Look at this. She loves her work. You can tell she loves her work. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, there she is sitting on the, I think I went through everything. All right, so those are all the still shots. Fantastic. Amy, I just got to say, I applaud you for all of your work that you have put into these animals. I know you have more than one, and she is your top dog, but I got to tell you, between that and the rats chasing and all that other stuff, the barn hunts that you do, man, all props go out to you. Patience of a saint to get these things. Oh, I guess the poles, I'm being told, the poles where they zigzag through them, they're called weaves. So there you go. Congratulations. I'm always floored by the dogs that are trained that well. That is just fantastic. Round of applause for sure for you. As soon as I can find my applause button, there it is. There we go. Round of applause. She made it into the top dogs. Fantastic. Congratulations. All right, folks, that is the end of the program. I know I'm a little over, but that is the end of the program. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. Sign up, and once you are signed up and signed in, find the American Perspective channel and make sure to hit that green follow button so that you will be notified every single time that I go live. I want to say hello to all of my ex folks that are out there. I see 17 of you watching. That is fantastic. I see 5 on Facebook. That is wonderful. I've got 1 or 2 on YouTube. That is fantastic. And of course, I have close to 52. Holy smokes, 52 that are watching on Rumble. Thank you all so much. That is fantastic. I appreciate that. I actually think that's a high, believe it or not, for me, for 52. All right, we will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.